Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Gopal Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopal Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Bandha Ranjana Asuranandana Bandha Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Javasmavam Savajikadash Shishma Bhaktivedanta Swami Ki Jai Gantaraj Shi Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Shi Gundica Marjana Ki Jai Gopal. Oh glory some devotees, oh glory some devotees, oh glory some devotees, oh glory to Shigon Shiganga. So today is the auspicious day Gundica Marjana, so we'll just try to present the pastime a little bit for the pleasure of the devotees. So, it's from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 12.1. Shri Gundica Mandiram Atmavindai Samajayan Chalanta Sagara Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha Krishna Pavesho Pakayam Chakara Shri Gundica Mandiram Atmavindai Samajayan Chalanta Sagara Swachita Vachitalam Ujvalam Cha Krishna Pavesho Payakam Chakara. Shri Gundicha Mandiram Atmavindai. Samajayan Chalanta Sagadaha. Sachichavat Shitalam Uchvalam Cha. Shri Gundicha Mandiram Atmavindai. Samajayan Chalananta Sagadaha. Sachitavat Shitalam Uchvalam Cha. Krishna Pavesho Payakam Chaka. Ladies. Sri Gundicha Mandiram Atmavindai. Samajayan Chalanta Sagadaha. Krishna Pavesho Pakayam Chakaha. So translation, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the Gundicha temple with his devotees and associates. In this way, he made it as cool and bright as his own heart, and thus he made the temple a befitting place for Lord Shri Krishna to sit. So in the Skanda Purana, we hear the story about how Jagannath and Baladev, Subhadra appeared. That there was it's a very long story, but the reigning king many millennia ago, King Indradyumna, he wanted to install deities at Jagannath Puri, Nilachala, and he engaged the architect of the heavenly planets, Vishvakarma. So the deal was that Vishvakarma said, do not open the doors until I have finished. But after many weeks, he didn't hear any chipping, banging anymore. So becoming impatient, he opened the doors, and at one stage, he was thinking that, I've made a big mistake, he hasn't finished yet. Because there's no arms, no legs. But actually, this is the transcendental arrangement of Jagannath, that this is their supreme prema form. We would have heard during the Snan Yatra previously the story that this is Jagannath Baladev Subhadra exhibiting ecstatic symptoms of their legs and arms withdrawing in the body, big eyes and a big smile. So understanding the actual reason behind this, King Indradyumna became very happy, and he had a great installation ceremony. So that was the original Snan Yatra was when they were bathed. So it's said that it's one of the most ancient festivals that's sort of observed, particularly like within Vedic culture in India. So this is considered the original Snan Yatra was actually the installation or the appearance day of Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So, and of course when we had the actual day, the full moon day of the month of Jesta. So I'm sure most of you were here. We had a chance to bathe Lord Jagannath. So as I said, it was actually the original appearance day, but we celebrate it every year, this Snan Yatra. And they have the pastime after being bathed that they all get sick. All three of them get sick. and so they go into seclusion for 2 weeks. So what actually happens with the deities, because they're painted, like traditionally in Jagannath Puri, they're painted with sort of clay and ochre materials, and with the bathing ceremony that sort of washes it away a little bit. So that 2 weeks they've been repainted and refurbished under the guise of being sick. And lots of medicines and herbs have been offered to them. But Lord Chaitanya, he's in great separation that he can't see Jagannath for those 2 weeks, so he goes to Alalnath and waiting until they can come out again. So after 2 weeks, the day before Rath Yatra ceremony, we have this Gundica Marjana. So it's mentioned in I haven't got it. Oh, there it is. So it's mentioned in so the actual Gundica temple was that the word Gundica is named after King Indradyumna's wife, whose name was Gundica. So as I said, the day before Rath Yatra, the Gundica temple is cleansed, because that temple is basically empty except for the 8 days when Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra go there. They have the Rath procession there. They're there for 8 days, and then they have the return Rath Yatra parade. So for the rest of the year, it's basically empty. And because of the open structure of the typical sort of temple architecture in India, you get a lot of like wind blowing in sand and dust and leaves and straw. So it gets quite dirty, basically unclean. And Srila Prabhupada, sorry, I'm just jumping ahead a little bit. So Srila Prabhupada, he does emphasise the importance of cleansing our own heart. So the idea of cleaning the temple is synonymous with cleaning our own heart. So we're cleaning the Gundica temple for the arrival of Lord Jagannath, and at the same time we're meditating on that we're making our heart a clean place for the Lord to reside. So Srila Prabhupada, he emphasises that we need to seriously take this process of cleansing the heart. So basically by following the 4 regulative principles, chanting Hare Krishna without offence, without offending the devotees, and always remembering the Lord's pastimes. And so, basically the 9 processes of devotional service, Shravanam, Kirtanam, etc. And so whilst we're cleansing the temple, we're also cleansing our own heart. So Lord Chaitanya, he wanted to make Gundica temple a pleasing place to receive the Lord on the Rath Yatra. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 12th chapter, it gives us the whole story of Gundica Marjana. So Lord Chaitanya, along with his devotees, he approached the temple supervisor, Kazi Misra, and with the request we would like to clean Gundica temple to make it a fit place for the ride of the Lord tomorrow. So Lord Chaitanya, he asked Kazi Misra to please bring lots of brooms and water pots for this. So Kashi Misra, very respectful to Lord Chaitanya and the devotees, he said, yes, whatever you like I can arrange, but actually, cleaning the temple is not a really fit service for you. But if it is your desire, we will supply everything that you want. So Kazi Misra, he arranged for all the the brooms and the water pots. Of course, the brooms, for those who've been to India, it's not like the teepee sort of brooms we're familiar with. It's just like sticks or reeds tied at one end, and that's what they use for the brooms, but they can be quite effective. So first hit Lord Chaitanya, he honoured all his devotees, he put sandalwood paste over their bodies, and they all went together to GUNDICA temple, and they began cleaning everything, cleaning all the big buildings and the small buildings in between, and the temple and the kirtan hall. It's something that in ISKCON we don't really seem to have a temple and a kirtan hall. A lot of traditional Indian temple architecture, they have, these are two separate things. Particularly comes to mind those who have been to the Dharmeshwar Mahaprabhu temple in Navadvip. You have the viewing area of the deities, and just behind that is like a roofed area, which is the kirtan hall. So I know there was one devotee asked Prabhupada about this, but Prabhupada, it wasn't a big thing for him. He said, yeah, so in front of the temple is the viewing area, and the back of the temple is a kirtan hall. So he just kept it simple, basically. So, but the GUNDICA temple had separate areas, temple and the kirtan hall. And with so much enthusiasm, they all, sweeping and sweeping. And it was described that Lord Chaitanya seemed to have hundreds of arms. He was just so enthusiastically sweeping everywhere. And all the devotees, at the same time, so much chanting. The only sound that was heard was the Hare Krishna mantra. If anybody wanted anything, they'd say Hare Krishna. If they received something, Hare Krishna. That was the only sound. Hare, Hare, that was the only sound that was being heard. And Lord Chaitanya, he had perspiration and sand and dust all over his body, and it was described as being transcendently beautiful, decorated with this sand. And once they swept all the different areas, had big piles of sand and dust and leaves, and with their own cloth they picked it up and put it outside. So Lord Chaitanya said, I can see how well you have worked, how well you have laboured, by how big a pile of dirt and sand that you have. And so Lord Chaitanya, he had one pile of everything he collected, and all the other 100 devotees put all their dirt in another pile. But Lord Chaitanya's was actually bigger. Just one person, Lord Chaitanya, his pile was bigger than all the other devotees. So under that, Lord Chaitanya is showing that the harder you endeavour, the cleaner your heart can become. So, and at that point, when everything had been taken out, Lord Chaitanya said, okay, next job we'll go back and clean it again. And to get all the finer particles of dust and sand. So Lord Chaitanya is really emphasising how important it is to clean the temple, and also cleaning one's heart. So again and again, labouring in this way. So when the temple was utterly clean, all the devotees with the water pots, they were given the signal, and they started throwing, because there wasn't like plastic buckets that we're used to, just clay pots. And so throwing the water on the roof, on the walls, on the floor, on the altar, everywhere, the water flowing everywhere. So the lake they were using was the Indradyumna Sarovar lake, which was nearby to GUNDICA, and there was a big bucket brigade of devotees. They would dip the bucket in and then pass it along the line, and the devotees at the end would throw the water, and then the empty buckets would come back. But some of the devotees saw, they were just so enthusiastic, and it was just taking too long. So they were running backwards and forwards with buckets of water, and it was becoming very congested, and sometimes the devotees run back and forth, they'd crash into each other, and the buckets would break. So Kashi Mishra had to come and get new buckets. And then, because the Indrajuma Sarovar was just getting so crowded with devotees, they'd go elsewhere to find, lakes and wells, anywhere they could get water, and throwing water all over the temple just to clean it very, very nicely. And Lord Chaitanya, he said that, it was described that if he saw a devotee who wasn't working to his full extent, he would sort of mildly chastise him, but in a joking way. He said, "You have done very, very well. Please teach this to others so that they can work in the same way." So the devotees become a bit ashamed. They understood the import of Lord Chaitanya. He wasn't directly chastising them, but encouraged them that you can work a little bit harder. So in that way, everybody started working even harder. So it's interesting, a similar when Lord Chaitanya, as Nimai Pandit, when he first got married, and it was arranged that all the brahmanas who were coming for the wedding, every brahmana would get a gift. But some of the brahmanas, they were getting a little bit greedy, and they'd get the gift and then they'd wander away, and then they'd come back just making out they just turned up again to get a second gift. But Lord Chaitanya, Nimai Pandit, as Super Soul, he understood this, but just to protect the reputation of the brahmanas, he announced that every brahmana can get 3 gifts. So those brahmanas, they felt a bit ashamed that, I'm trying to cheat, but now I've been exposed. So it's the same principle that Lord Chaitanya, he doesn't directly chastise, but indirectly he encourages everybody just to fully engage in service with the proper attitude. And you can see in that photo there, happens to be a devotee. What's he doing? He's pouring water on Lord Chaitanya's feet there. And another devotee is waiting there, eagerly drinking it up. So that was going on. So, devotees would put water secretly on Lord Chaitanya's feet to drink it. And another devotee said, "Yes, please give me some." Another devotee said, "Yeah, give me some too. And then at one point, they described that there was a Bengali Vaishnava. He wasn't trying to do it secretly. He just directly poured the water on Lord Chaitanya's feet and started drinking it, and without any shame. And Lord Chaitanya turned to Srup Damodar Goswami. It's actually his disappearance tomorrow. Srup Damodar Goswami, he was considered the leader of the Bengali Vaishnavas. He said, "Just see what offence your Bengali Vaishnavas has caused me to make, taking my foot water on Lord Jagannath's altar." So externally he was angry. And so Srup Damodar Goswami, he took that Bengali Vaishnava by the neck and pushed him outside. So not proper etiquette, I mean, Lord Chaitanya was happy in one sense that he was so enthusiastic to take his foot water, but externally this wasn't the proper etiquette. So then Lord Chaitanya, with his own cloth and all the other devotees, they started polishing the temple. And then eventually let all the water out, big deluge, all the water come out of the temple and flowed into the gardens. So at that point, everything had been cleansed, and the minds of the devotees were as clean as the rooms. It was purified, cool and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own mind had appeared within their hearts. So after that, of course, big kirtan. So Lord Chaitanya, he asked the devotees to start kirtan, and Lord Chaitanya, he was just dancing like a maddened lion. Everybody was so jubilant and ecstatic about, cleaning the temple, and obviously at the same time cleaning their own heart. And Lord Chaitanya was exhibiting so many different ecstatic symptoms, such as perspiration, trembling, tears, Horripilation, we know what horripilation is, like the hair standing on end, like goosebumps. Jubilation and roaring. Indeed, the tears from his eyes washed his body, and the bodies of all the devotees as described, the tears were coming out of his eyes, as described like the rains in the month of Shravan or in the wet season. And the sky was filled with great and loud chanting of Sankirtan, and the earth shook from the jumping and dancing of the Lord. So that went on for some time, chanting and dancing. And after some time that the kirtan stopped, and Lord Chaitanya, he rubbed sandalwood pulp onto all the devotees and gave them garlands, and then there was Kazi Mishra. He arranged like Jagannath Prasad for all the devotees. So Lord Jagannath, this is a picture of them actually in the Gundicha Mandir. So as I said, it's only for 8 days that they're there. The rest of the time the temple's empty. So I was mentioning the Puranas. Bilanchalo Sat Vashani Gundicha Mandir Panidi, which if a person has darshan of Lord Jagannath in his own temple, obviously there's great benefit. But if you have darshan of Lord Jagannath in the Gundicha Marjana, the Puranas say you get 100 times more benefit. But unfortunately, they don't let foreigners in the Gundicha temple. I do remember years ago there was some American devotees, they were giving like 500 rupee notes to the priest, and he was allowing them to come in. But generally they don't let. But still, Jagannath wasn't actually there. It was just an empty temple. But if you're fortunate enough to see Lord Jagannath, Baladev Subhadra in the Gundicha Mandir, 100 times more benefit. And it says if you see the deities for those 8 days in Gundicha, you'll go back to Vaikuntha. So that's the statement of the Puranas. So there's also one very interesting pastime that takes place at Gundicha. Is when Jagannath, he tells his eternal consort Lakshmi that I'm just going to Gundicha on the Ratha Yatra, I'll be back tomorrow. That's what he tells her. But after a few days he's still not back. So Lakshmi gets very angry. And so there's a whole pastime called Hera Panchami, which it's basically 4 days after this. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, becomes angry and wants to see the Lord. So in the Madhya Lila 14.120, Swarup Damodar tells Lord Chaitanya in response to his question that externally Lord Jagannath gives the excuse that he wants to participate in the Ratha Yatra festival, but actually he wants to leave Jagannath Puri and go to the Gundicha temple, which is actually the replica of Vrindavan. But he gives the excuse, yes, dear, I'll be back tomorrow. So Lord Chaitanya, he asked, so the Lord enjoys his pastimes day and night in the various flower gardens at Gundicha, but why does he not take Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, with him? So Swarup Damodar replied that, my dear Lord, please hear the reason for this. Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, cannot be admitted to the pastimes of Vrindavan. In the pastimes of Vrindavan, the only assistants are the gopis. But for the gopis, no one can track the mind of Krishna. So very intimate pastimes. And Lakshmi, remember Lokanath Maharaj was giving a lecture on Brajmandal Prikrama some years ago, and he described the difference between Lakshmi and the gopis, that when Krishna is playing his flute, immediately the gopis drop everything. Doesn't matter what they're doing, they drop everything and they run to Krishna in the forest. But Lakshmi she's still decorating herself. He's playing his flute, but I'm going to be another half an hour. making myself up. So that mood of dropping everything is not there with Lakshmi. So it's only the gopis have that access to those intimate pastimes. So using the caste festival as an excuse, Krishna goes there with Subhadra and Baladev. All the pastimes of the gopis that take place in those gardens are very confidential ecstasies of Lord Krishna. No one knows them. So Lord Chaitanya, so since there's actually no fault in Krishna's pastimes, why does the goddess of fortune get angry? And Swarup Damodar replied that it is the nature of a girl afflicted by love to become immediately angry upon finding any neglect on the part of a lover. So that, I think it's in English literature, you have that hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So when she feels she's been neglected by her lover, she becomes very angry. So due to that separation, the goddess of fortune decides to come to see the Lord at Gundicha. So that coming of the goddess of fortune to Gundicha is celebrated as the Hera Panchami. So Hera means to see, and Panchami refers to the 5th day of the lunar cycle. So, Madhya Lila 14.133 in the purport, Prabhupada says the goddess of fortune, jealous and angry because her husband has been away for so long and thus has neglected her, comes with the maid servants to Gundicha temple to force the servants of Lord Jagannath to bring him back to Nachala, the Jagannath temple. So when Lord Jagannath starts his car festival, he gives the assurance, goddess of fortune, he will return the next day. When he does not return, the goddess of fortune, after waiting a few days, feels neglected. So she very gorgeously decorates herself and her associates, and they all come marching towards Gundicha's temple, standing before the main gate. So then there's like a big fight between the servants of Lakshmi and the servants of Jagannath. And so it's seen that the servants of Lakshmi are victorious. They start beating him with sticks until they surrender to Lakshmi, and then appease her, offering her gifts, and they promise that yes, we'll bring Jagannath back very soon. So like that. So there was one drama put on in Mayapur of this Hera Panchami. There's no sound there, but the servants of Jagannath and Lakshmi, you can see there's lots of smiles. It's not like a big heavy fight, but lots of struggling. Who's going to be victorious? So pushing and backwards and forwards and sticks and all sorts of things until eventually the servants of Jagannath surrender. And Lakshmi is brought in, they offer her gifts, and so eventually she's appeased. This just goes for a couple of minutes. So lots of pushing and shoving. So eventually the servants of Lakshmi are victorious, and there's all sorts of deals going on. Yes, we'll do this, we'll do that, and different offerings are given. And so as I said, it was put on at Mayapur some years ago. It was the only sort of footage I found of this particular pastime. So lots of announcement, lots of deals. Yes, we'll do this, we'll do that. And just to appease Lakshmi so that she's satisfied that actually her husband's going to come back very soon. How old? Well, she's eternal. Young girl, I don't know. I mean, she's Navayovanam, she's eternally useful. Yeah. So she's made some agreement. Okay. So just bring my Prabhu back, then everything will be all right. So that's basically the pastime in essence. There is a conversation in Chaitanya Charitamrita after Gundicha, like Lord Chaitanya was watching the the Harapanchami festival, and then he goes into deep discussion with Sri Damodar about all the different types of anger and etc. that Lakshmi exhibits. And then they go on to actually, with Radharani as well. And so it's very, very, they go very deep into the different emotions that are going on, pastimes between, Krishna and Radha and Jagannath and Lakshmi, etc. So it is quite deep and esoteric, but it is worth reading. So, Shri Gundicha Marjanam Ki Jai. So, any questions or points, additions? Yes. So. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a very nice class, Prabhu. I was just wondering if you have come across in your readings any mention of women Vaishnavas in Lord Chaitanya's time participating in the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, like in that particular pastime?
Like when Lord Chaitanya was present, yes. I haven't heard or seen any reference. Generally, it's always been the male devotees are involved. Yeah. Well, yeah, that. Yeah.
Now we can see by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada that we get to engage in the cleansing of the temple and the altar.
Yeah. So Western temples, everybody's able to, but just that, in India, there's that culture that ladies aren't allowed on the altar.
Yeah.
So.
I was wondering if there was mention of them. My curiosity was, well, what specific tasks would they be doing in that cleansing of the temple?
Well, there's no reference to it, so I could only speculate.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yes. No. Gundicha, that's like belongs to the local, the Pandas in Jagannath. In Gundicha. There. Oh, the other one. There. Yeah. I'm not sure, possibly, but generally, as far as I know, foreigners aren't allowed in. But just some weeks ago, there was a new Jagannath temple built in Dig in West Bengal, on the coast. And the story that I heard from the Shrimad was that the chief minister of Bengal, Mamata Banerjee, she visited Jagannath temple, and apparently they were quite rude and offensive to her, the Pandas. This is a story I heard, and she wasn't happy with her treatment. So as a result, she said, so we'll build our own Jagannath temple. So that was opened. So that happened about 5 years ago. So that was opened a few months ago in Dig. So basically it's a Jagannath temple replica in Bengal, and it's run by the government, but they asked ISKCON to manage it. So foreigners are allowed there. There is already a ISKCON temple. There was a Radha Krishna temple there. So I said it's quite a popular tourist place on the coast. It's only about 4 hours by taxi from Calcutta. So presumably, I don't know, maybe they'll build a Gundicha there and have their Rath Yatra, because in Jagannath Puri, practically every week there's a festival at the Jagannath temple, and huge amounts of prasad is. So how they're actually going to run this new temple, of course the Pandas in Jagannath Puri, they weren't happy at all. And they were trying to dictate, okay, if you're going to have that, you can't have the foreigners coming to that. And Mamaji Banerjee said, "Not your temple, Baba." So that's open to everybody, that temple. So, yeah. When that temple in Dig opened, a lot of the Hindus, local Indian, said, "Oh, that'd be so nice. Now we won't be harassed by the Pandits at Jagannath Puri. They get harassed for donations, all sorts of things. Even the local visitors, Hindus, they're not very happy with the treatment they get from the Pandits because it's all about money, So if they can go to a temple, they're not harassed for donations, and it's closer to Calcutta, they're quite happy. So. Yeah, that's been going on, but they don't let foreigners in, but they want us to have it at the same time. They can't have it both ways. They can't have it both ways. You let us in, maybe we can have it the same date, but you don't let us in, we'll do it whatever date we want. No. Yeah. Yeah. And he did say you pay obeisances to the Chakra and Jagannath temple. That's non-different from seeing Jagannath himself. And also you do get the Patita Pavana Jagannath, like you can see from the Simbwa gate. If you're just at the right angle, you can see Jagannath there. So, and you always see that Haridas Thakur and was it Sanatana Goswami, they never went in because they were considered fallen, from, associating with Muslims. They were considered fallen from the, external sort of social understanding. So they didn't want to create a disturbance. So they never went to the temple either. But Lord Chaitanya himself would come and visit them each day. So look, Prabhupada said, don't, he doesn't agree with it, but don't be disheartened, So that there is that prophecy that is mentioned at one point. Lord Jagannath, charmed by the devotion of the foreigners, will one day leave that temple and go elsewhere. So I've heard that that's partly the reason why they don't want foreigners there, because there's about 30,000 Pandits dependent on their livelihood for that temple. If Jagannath leaves, what will they do? But they don't understand that that Jagannath can leave and stay at the same time. We see that that little Jagannath appeared in New York in the 60s, So at that point at least, Lord Jagannath left Jagannath Puri, but he's still in the temple, so they don't understand the transitional nature. He can, I did, last time I was in Puri, there was one Hindu man on the beach I was speaking to, and he said, "Oh, you're a foreigner, you can't come into the temple." I said, "Yeah." I said, "So what does Jagannath mean?" And he said, "Well, it means the Lord of the world." And I was just joking, and I said, "I think you've got the wrong name. It should be Hindunath, Lord of the Hindus." And he sort of laughed, said, "Yeah, I understand what you mean." And I said, there is that story that Lord Jagannath will one time leave the temple. And he said, "Yeah, I've heard that story. It's the Russians. The Russians are going to take Jagannath." All sorts of stuff going on. Anyway. So it's interesting. He said, I'm a Hindu and we worship Jagannath, but we believe that Jagannath Baladev Subhadra is actually Brahma and Shiva and Vishnu. That was his idea. So lots of unusual understandings, but at least from Srila Prabhupada, we get the actual direct understanding. And he said, don't be disappointed that you can't go into the temple, because Jagannath will come out, and we see that he's all over the world now. So. This picture here, yeah. I mean, I just Googled Lord Jagannath and Gundicha, and that was the only picture I come up. So whether it's the right, maybe it's an ISKCON temple, but I couldn't find actual. Yeah, I mean, I recognise that as well because they don't look big enough. But anyway, it's. Yeah. So anyway, we get the idea. The point is that, the Puranas say if you see Jagannath in Gundicha for that 8 days, there's great benefit. So this is the closest photo I could find to represent that.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yes,
Just, yeah, definitely not Jagannath. Not.
Yeah.
Just a quick little 2 points. Is there anything organised today? Normally we have a big temple clean up, and
Well, they had it this morning on the altar.
Oh, just the altar.
Yeah.
Not the whole complex.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, you did a different day. Okay. I'll just. The other thing is, if anyone has time today, because we don't have time today, but a very, very famous and wonderful purport in this chapter 12, if you want to mark it down, text 135. There's a very elaborate purport on the purport of this cleansing of Gopal temple in relation to our own hearts. And if you have time, it's just, I try and read this every year. So chapter 12 of the Madhya Lila, verse 135.
Sure.
Stick it in your reading for today if you have time. Hare Krishna.
Okay, thank you very much. Shri Gundicha Marjana ki jai.